I left the Candys, Carlas, Tonys, and Rons in 1987 in order to go to graduate school, and returned 2 years later with a renewed fervor to make a difference. I hadn't taught ninth-grade students since my first year of teaching, but when I tried to think of an area where I could clearly make an impact, it was at that level. For years, I had been appalled not only by the lack of success in terms of interest and skills of the ninth-grade students who were assigned to remedial reading, but also by their lack of progress out of remedial reading. Once labeled and placed in remedial programs, most students stayed there for their entire high school career, the most troublesome dropping out, and the others left to survive in a program where remediation consisted primarily of students completing skill lessons in workbook or worksheet activities with the teacher serving as a manager. At our high school, this form of reading instruction had been offered to, and required of, students who were reading significantly below grade level since 1971. Traditionally, incoming ninth-grade students who were reading at least 2 years below reading grade level on the Nelson-Denny reading test were required to take a reading class, efficiency reading, in addition to their regularly scheduled English class, English 1 or Basic English 1. Instruction in this class had traditionally focused on diagnosing reading deficiencies and offering individual and group instruction designed to remediate those skills. A great deal of class time was spent completing worksheets and workbooks designed to remediate individual deficiencies. For the past several years, there had been 2 sections of this class, each with 15 to 20 students. I decided that I wanted to teach one of those classes. There would be many days that followed when I would question my judgment. When I asked the principal if I could be assigned the Basic English 1 class and one of the Reading Lab classes, he was excited by the idea. In addition to my 2 sections of directed studies in English, I would have one class entitled Reading and Writing Workshop. We decided to put these 2 classes back to back so that I would have the same students for 90 minutes rather than 45 in a class called Reading Writing Workshop. On paper, this could have been a reality. In terms of scheduling, it just didn't work. There were students in my Basic English 1 class who weren't allowed to stay in my reading class because I hadn't been approved by the special education director. They had to be placed in the reading specialist section of the class because the learning disabilities teacher had worked out a system of monitoring the labeled students for that period of her day. In addition, some students couldn't be placed in both classes because of scheduling problems. As it turned out, I had a group of students for Period 4. Some stayed with me for Period 5, while others left to go to a different class. Then some of those Period 5 students stayed with me for Period 6 English. I had encountered the first glitch in secondary school, trying to find sustained time with students. Needless to say, even if the scheduling had not worked, that was no reason to admit failure, right? After all, it was only August, and I did have all the new theory and practice in which I had immersed myself for 2 years. I reminded myself that I had certainly overcome similar difficulties in past years and had managed to help most of my students become readers and writers. I also believed, somewhat smugly perhaps, that being a teacher-researcher was going to reveal all the wonderful things I did to help students in this process. As my journal indicates, I could not have been more wrong. (8:15) Today is my first day back in the classroom after 2 years of being somewhere else. It's hard not to wonder if I made the right decision in coming back. I look at these kids sitting here and wonder if my expectations are too high for them. Or is that possible? I've seen how much every student needs these basic communication skills in order to succeed, and I'm really feeling a responsibility to move them along the way, to communicate within their group and with others. A friend wrote on my board, "You will learn here. You will grow here. You will amaze yourselves here." At first I felt as though that seemed a little...